Hi guys, this is Olu and Nathan from Beckley Rose Academy. On this episode, we wanted to talk about gold mine area. What does that actually mean? And how do you find your gold mine area? But before we get into that, like every episode, if you haven't yet subscribed, hit the subscribe button. And as you go through the video, please like and share with your friends. Before we get into this topic, what is a gold mine area for the listeners that don't know?
Cool. So really good question. So when you hear the term gold mine area in property, what they're generally referring to is your chosen location. So you call that location your gold mine area because you feel it's an area of high demand, and also because you feel that area is very profitable, so that there's going to be a good return on your investment in that area. So it's the location that you choose to invest in property on. So a question I have for you then, Olu, do you feel it is important for your gold mine area to be in close proximity to where you live?
Nathan, I would say it depends, right? So the first question you need to ask yourself when going into property is, what sort of property investment are you doing? So are you doing more of a passive investment? If it's more of a passive investment, then no, your gold mine area doesn't need to be in close proximity to you. But in the case that we're referring to, so rent to rent property management, it is critical and vital for your property to be in close proximity. So we follow a rule that wherever we manage a property, it needs to be half an hour to an hour max away from our home location or our office or work location, due to the fact that you might have a tenant call you with an emergency. Maybe they're locked out of their property at 2 a.m. in the morning. They've gone out, drunken night, whatever, lost their key, and they call you at 2 a.m. If the property that you're managing is 2 hours away, one way away, you're going to have to take 2 hours to get there and 2 hours to get back. Like, you need to create a property management business that is realistic and is not just creating a headache for yourself. So yeah, like again, it's vital for whichever property or your gold mine area to be in close proximity. I would say half an hour, maximum an hour from where you live.
Yeah, and to follow up with that, so potentially you could choose an area which is a lot further away and get a property manager to look after those properties for you. But just bearing in mind that the cost of you hiring that property manager will come out of your profit. So that's something that you would need to bear in mind.
So how do people go about finding the gold mine area? Do they just type this on Google and then it just pops up with locations? Like, what are the criteria you look at for finding a gold mine area?
Yeah, so really good question. So one of the first things that I would be wanting to do is understanding what is the tenant type that I'd be looking to attract to our property. So with our particular strategy, we were looking at professional and corporate clients. I think once you know your tenant type, you then want to see, is there a lot of things in your area that is going to be attracting that particular tenant type to your area? So for example, if we were looking at students, to manage HMOs for students, but there's no university in our area, that probably wouldn't be a gold mine area for students because there's not going to be a lot there. For us, when we're looking at professional tenants, we were looking at kind of what is the employment rate in the area, where are the industrial estates, or where is the business parks, how far does it take to get to local restaurants, local supermarkets, shops, shopping centres. Where is the public transport in the area? So is there really good transport links to get from A to B in your area? Because what you'll probably find is that professionals, they might want to go in and out of town. Maybe they've got business meetings out of town, so they want to have really useful, reliable transport links to get in and out of town. So they're kind of the things that you want to be looking at. Is there enough things in your area that is going to be attracting the tenant type that you're looking to put into your properties?
Everything you said is spot on, but it's also critical to talk to your target audience. I remember when we were initially searching for our gold mine area, we were going to be in a close proximity to a business park. And we spoke to people that worked in that business park and said, where would you like to live? Do you like this particular area? And they said, no, this is too sort of industrial. I'd rather be a train journey away from this town down the road is a lot nicer. So communicating with your target audience will allow you to understand where they want to live. Like Nathan mentioned it perfectly, right? I will need to go to a university and speak to the students to understand where they want to live, right? If I want to go to a corporate center, I need to know this is a massive corporate center. There's 50, 60,000 employees that live here, that work here. Where would they like to live? There's communication with your target audience is key.
Yeah, no, definitely agree with that.
We have a few properties. So how close do those properties have to be to like train stations, bus stations? Is that a critical area that we need to take into consideration?
Yeah, I would say is a very important question, because once you've chosen your Goldmine area and you're then deciding on the locations of your properties, you then want to decide on how close it is to local amenities in the area. So usually we have a rule of thumb that your property should be no further than about 15-minute journey on public transport into the center. So you don't want a property that's 45 minutes away from the center of your Goldmine area. And when we say the center, we mean like the shopping center, the railway station, where everything is happening, because most likely they're working in the center. Most likely all the shops are in the center. Most likely all of the public transport, like the railway station, is in the center. So if you're managing a property that's 45 minutes away, it's unlikely that you're going to get a lot of demand. And what you have to remember is that a lot of tenants generally who are staying in HMOs don't necessarily drive. There's a high profile of tenants that are actually using public transport. So when choosing on particular locations, you want to see, okay, how far is the local bus route from that property, and how long would it take for that tenant to get into the center from there? So always think of a rule of thumb, usually about 15 minutes on public transport.
No, thank you, Nathan. That's really helpful. So we've talked about the importance of being in close proximity to your Goldmine area. So 30 minutes to an hour away from your Goldmine area. We've talked about the importance of understanding your target audience, communicating to those target audience, finding out where they want to live, and ensuring that you select your Goldmine area based on your target audience. We talked about the importance of being approximately around 15 minutes on public transport away from the center of town. So where you'll find the restaurants, the leisure centers, the public transport that will go maybe into London or to any of the hot cities. Why don't you also address something I hear quite a lot about, Article 4? That comes a lot when people talk about property and also Goldmine area. So what is Article 4 and why should people care about it?
Yeah, so really good final question. So Article 4 is, or knowing whether your area or your proposed Goldmine area is in an Article 4 area, is also really important when it comes to rent to rent. So what Article 4 is? Article 4 is a direction or a directive made by your local planning authority. And in essence, what it means is that planning permission is required for renovations of existing buildings, which could relate to changing the use of a family home to a HMO. So normally, without a specific Article 4 directive, the change of use from a family home to a HMO is usually part of what they call permitted development rights. Now, it's important to know whether your area is in an Article 4, because what it could mean is that if you were trying to convert family homes to HMOs, you would require planning permission from your local council. And the likelihood of your council actually approving for that house to be converted is very unlikely. It's very slim. It's probably not going to happen. So All that would mean is that if you do choose an area in Article 4, it means that you would only be able to target already existing HMOs. Now, if we think about our area is actually not in an Article 4. So what that means is that we have two avenues of properties that we can target. So we can market to already existing HMOs, but we can also target properties that are family homes, which we can convert to HMOs. So we almost have a wider option of houses that we can look at. Whereas if you're in an Article 4 area, you can only really target existing HMOs. So when choosing your Goldmine area, it's important to know whether you're in an Article 4 area, and you can find that information through your local council website. They will usually have a map of your area, and it will kind of show you which parts of your area is in Article 4, because sometimes it's not the whole area. So it may not be all of London, for example, is in Article 4. It may just be southwest London might be in Article 4, or a particular area in London. So it's important to actually go into the local council website, check the map, and actually see whether your area is in an Article 4. So very useful to know.
Makes sense. No, that's really good. That's really so you can still have a Goldmine area, which is also an Article 4 area. It's just understanding how you target and who you target, right? So targeting HMO owners or landlords, and knowing that you won't be able to convert family or family property into a house of multiple occupancies.
Yeah, exactly that.
Perfect.
All right, guys. So I hope you really enjoyed this video. As always, don't forget to leave a comment if you've got any questions. We'll be more than happy to answer them. If you've got any suggestions of things that you'd want us to discuss, also please leave them in the comments so we can look at doing them in future videos. Please, please, please press the subscribe button, and we look forward to seeing you in our next video. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Beckley Rose Property Solutions, the master key of property management.